Hey there, welcome to the table. So we're getting ready to start our playthrough. And I got a few, since I dove into the rules a little deeper today, before I started playing, I got a few changes that we need to do to the setup. And then also, my usual disclaimers. Let's start with the disclaimers. I've never played this before. So I guarantee you I'm going to make mistakes, but I promise you that this video series is going to be in the format of us learning the game together. So I'm going to explain to you what I see and the decisions I'm making and why I'm making them. And if I'm missing something in the rulebook, then so be it. I mean, that's the thing. I invite you to comment in the comment section if I am. And let's help people to learn how to play this game, because that's the whole point of a playthrough. Now, I'm going to be long-winded sometimes because I'm going to be explaining what I'm thinking. I'm going to have to pause a lot to look things up in the rulebook. And then once I find them, I'm going to be possibly even reading you the rulebook because I may not understand what it's trying to say, and I'm thinking out loud while I speak to you. That's how I work. Not everybody likes that format. Some people are like, you should at least play the game a few times before you record. That's great. But you know what? Then you're not going to get a recording. Not for another couple months. So you got to pick your poison here. And as I was saying in the last video, I'm not one of the people who got it early. If I got it early, then I could have maybe had the luxury of doing that, but that's not the case here. Okay, so with that out of the way, another administrative thing is that I don't particularly care for this view. So I tried to explain this before, but the camera software I used to use, my camera has this mode with the old app, if I can call it that was perfect. Now I either have this ultra wide zoomed out view, or it's telephoto where it's like super zoomed in. And I use this device right here. This is a tripod, and I just put my camera right here on the tripod, and it always worked perfectly because I can just hold my camera up like this and move it around and nestle it down so you can see the little legs aren't moving around my pieces, and then the camera's perfectly looking at the board while we're doing whatever we need to do. The issue with this new app I'm using is if I put it on this camera in the telephoto mode, it is zoomed in so badly that I'm only going to see these two pieces and nothing around it. Or if it's in the mode that it's in now that you're seeing, it's going to be this ultra wide, and it actually has these two things are going to show up in the camera view. Because of the way the camera locks into this, it's going to actually have the legs blocking a significant percentage of the screen space. So it makes this thing unusable. So I've been trying to solve the problem. In the last video, I was using a green screen. And what I'm doing this time around is it's going to require me to have to, flip on my computer here. But I now have this. So my green screen camera, the one I was using for the green screen, is now going to be mobile. And so we're going to use it like this. I think it looks pretty good. The only problem is it's an iPad, and so it's going to be really hard for me to put this in the middle of the board somewhere. And then the other thing I got to worry about is I have a long power cord, because this thing sucks power like nothing, that's knocking all my components around. Because as I move this around, the power cord is moving with it. So we're going to try this. I think this looks much nicer. I mean, the zoom on this thing is excellent. Like you can see, if we need to zoom in on this area, I think that's an excellent view. That's the view I'm looking for. It's just that, and now I got to, come back and flip it off if I want to show you the overall view. So the primary view we're going to use is this one. We'll go to the overall when you need to see the overall. And maybe eventually I'll get rid of the overall because it may not be necessary. it's a struggle, folks. I'm trying to like find the right happy balance, but I can't. And so the only thing I can tell you is that the camera that's used for the overall view is my audio. My iPad, for whatever reason, if I use that for audio, it'll work for 15, excuse me, it'll work for 15 minutes and then it won't work for 10. And my voice just goes mute. And so it ruins the video. All right, so enough of that. Let's jump in and let's talk about the mistakes that were made. So for the setup, the damage markers, if there are any damage markers, so one thing I learned is when you're looking at a particular region, whether it's a desert or not a desert, this of course is for the how the population feels about you. These green spaces represent a population. And I know you have this here that says population on it, but you don't need these when it's a green space. The green space says that's one population. You put this on the gray space to show that that's now two population. So I hope that makes sense. Now, we didn't do anything wrong per se, but I did describe that wrong because I did not, bother getting into the weeds with the rules yet. Now, the damage here, what that indicates is the population's been displaced. So that population is no longer there. And if we ever fix the damage, then the population can move back in. And the fixing and the moving back in, I believe, are two separate actions. We'll get more into those details as we start playing. But that's a significant part of this game. The Martian government and the Red Dust Rebellion are both interested in population being on their side. So this population game of damaging and displacing the population versus restoring and bringing the population back is going to be a big part of the ebb and flow of the tug of war that goes on between those two factions. Okay, the shuttle here, those of course represent the connection to Phobos, which we talked about. Those are the satellites up in orbit. And they also represent a population because they're green. So yes, they can take damage, but and when they take damage, they no longer have their link to Phobos available to them as well. So there's a little bit of an extra thing that happens for them. Okay, so let me think about this. Anything else that we need to concern ourselves with? So from a setup perspective, if there is a damage, it's in the rightmost space. So if this space had a damage, it would go in the rightmost space and then the next one. So you always go from the right in. And I said that we made a mistake. Well, that was because I thought that the damage markers, I was doing them left to the right. But it just so happens that all the damage markers are in spaces that only had one green space. So we actually put the damage markers in the correct space. So that was just pure coincidence. That wasn't because I knew what I was doing. Okay, another thing. The Church of the Reclaimer. I'm gonna bring their stuff closer to us. So you can see here, they draw these cards. They actually don't use the cards if you're gonna have them be an AI bot. So what they instead use, and I have to stand up for this, is they instead, whoops, hold on, my power cord is tangled up. Okay, what they instead use is up here on the track. So we have, it's on the number 3 here. It says NP asset total, and that's on 3. And that is because, so this is what I mean by the cord. Look what it just did. So my cord is knocking everything around. So we started with 4 cards. So I don't know why they told me to set it to 3. I'll double check that. But basically, instead of using cards, we're going to use that marker that you're supposed to move back and forth. Now, frankly, I hate reaching across the table for that counter. I would almost prefer to use the cards. But the cards do say things like, for example, it's discarded to claim first eligible, draw one asset card. So there's abilities on them. The AI ignores all this. So there's an opportunity lost if you're a player. These cards are a little bit more robust. So now what do the cards do? Like we said, they have all kinds of nice bonuses, but how does the AI, use them? And just so you know, the human player can do the same thing, but the AI is going to use them in certain ways. And the biggest one is these are our 2 event cards. And if you'll notice, the church is always last. And one of the things in the rule book is that the church is last on every single event card. So they never go first for anything. But what they can do is they can discard their cards. And in fact, that was the ability that was written on one of them. If you use it for eligibility, you get to draw another asset card. So in this case, this is the card for the first round. Before the play begins, they can spend their cards to move up. So one card would move them to third, another card would move them to second, and a third card would move them to first. So that's one of the things with the AI that they do. Now, how do we determine if the AI is going to spend cards for this purpose? That's where it gets a little wonky, but I don't fault the designer. I mean, it's as simple of a system as I guess you can come up with. It's roll 3 dice. So the part that confused me is it's 3 dice, and the total of all 3 have to be less than the number of cards he has. So I just rolled a 10. So it means he's not spending any cards. And I think the whole purpose of that is that he's not supposed to spend cards that often. He can accumulate the cards over and over, and then eventually, he's going to have a whole bunch of them. And if he has more than 10, then he's going to start spending them. So I'll show you where in the rule book that's listed, so you can help me if you believe I misinterpreted that. But it's basically, that's the, I just want you to understand that there's a mechanism at the start of every round when you're using them as an AI bot, that they have to go through this process to see if they're going to spend cards. Just reading it made me feel so painful that I almost wanted to be the Church of the Reclaimer, so that way I can spare myself from having to do all these extra steps every time a round begins. But as you can see, they go last. And so it's one of the things that is quirky about their particular faction. And these cards do look interesting, like if you are a human player. So let's go back to the cards. So this enhances the attack action. See right here, if discarded to claim first eligible. So that means if you discarded this card to move up, first eligible means you go first, right, in the round. Now, it is possible some of the factions are going to be ineligible. And what's interesting is in order to go first, even if a faction's ineligible, you still have to discard a card for that faction, which I found that to be a little interesting as well. So that's an example of, okay, the human player could do this, and if they do, they basically get a card back. So they're discarding a card and getting one back, so it's almost like a free, boost. So that's Church of the Reclaimer. They got some goofy things like that going on. And then to continue, and I need to make sure my cord doesn't destroy components here. The Red Dust Rebellion has this red marker right here. That represents resources that he has. The AI does not use resources. So that red marker gets taken out and you're playing a solitaire game. So if you ever need to give the Red Dust Rebellion resources from the player would just lose resources and that's it. And if the Red Dust Rebellion has to give you resources, you just take resources. But the Red Dust AI player doesn't actually do anything. And so some of this stuff, you're going to have to use the non-player rules and reference booklet. And you can see like there's some golden rules here. And a lot of it's laid out here. And so you can see it says, the NP factions follow the rules almost. So they never remove pieces from the map. Okay, so this is a coin thing that all coin games have. These cubes represent your troops or whatever. We're going to be playing the Martian government. So this is actually our player aid or tableau or whatever, player mat. So if I'm out of cubes and I need to place 3 more cubes, I can take any 3 cubes from the board I want to, they're going to be gone forever, but I can use those to place them somewhere else. So even though you're at your limit for cubes, you can still take off the map to put on. So what this is saying is that the AI never does that. So that's something that the human can do, but the AI can't. Then right here is the spot where it says, they do not track resources. If an event would transfer, blah, blah, blah. It's everything I just said. So this is just saying the non-player Martian government, but that's us. So we don't have to worry about that. But the Red Dust Rebellion, the Red Dust movement, they're not going to have... so we take the red marker off. When supply markers reach Phobos and would be converted into resources, instead increase the Martian government supply marker by 1. That's not going to be the case here but that's what would happen with them. So the corporation still tracks profits and will not be able to perform any action that requires it to spend profits it does not have. So it's just letting you know that even though we're not tracking resources, they still do. This is the church. They do not hold a hand of asset cards, instead tracking its current hand size with the asset total marker, which is what I just explained to you. Any game effect that would draw or discard asset cards, instead you just move it up and down by 1. So it's just a counter. And then you can see sometimes you're rolling against an activation number, and that's another interesting thing. And that gets to some of what we did wrong. So you take out the blue ones, because we're playing as the Martian government, right? So we're going to take that out. And then you have all of the corporation and the Red Dust and the CR, right? So these, what they're saying, there's a couple of things. The first one is, if we're doing this particular action right here, what this is saying is they're going to do, sorry, I'm trying to do this all with one hand. They're going to do this rally action, and they're going to place bases, right? So when they try to place these bases, after they place it once, this is a bad example because this is the exception. And I hate that about games is they make exceptions. But let's say they're doing a special activity at the bottom, coordinate. They're going to place a house using place population, right? And then maybe they get to place more than one house. I don't know the situation. The place bases is a bad example. Let's see. Right here. Shift towards active opposition. Right? So let's say they get to do this to multiple locations. Well, they'll do it to their first location, and then they're going to roll a die and compare it to this number on the top right. And if they roll less than or equal to that number, then they stop. If they don't, then they keep going. So that's sort of a mechanism that like, so if multiple places can be impacted by the action, they can do it. Now the exception is, if it's a white circle with a black text, like this number 1 here, that they don't roll for activation. They place the bases, and that's it. And it says only make AN rolls after placing rebels. So what that's trying to help you with is I really do appreciate that extra level of detail, GMT, and whoever the designer is. That's excellent, because one of my fears reading that rule is like, how on earth am I going to remember this? And so they did two things to help you remember it. The first one is you can see that it's a white circle with a black number, whereas these are black circles with white numbers. So step number 1 here does not use this, which they call the AN roll. And AN stands for activation number, right? So you don't do activation number rolls with that. And I love that they added the extra note here. They used their real estate wisely, and they said only make AN rolls after placing rebels. Well, placing rebels is step 2. So then you would do the AN roll, and if you don't roll a 1 or a 2, then you keep placing rebels. So you would just do step 2 over and over again, where, you know, for as long as you're rolling the die and getting the number, you know. So I thought that was awesome that they did that. And the other thing that we got wrong is all these cards get shuffled together. All AI cards. It doesn't matter who's who. And I'm just doing that because it's hard to do in front of the camera. So I'm shuffling off camera here. So we have 3 sets of cards. We have the orange church cards, we have the red dust cards, and we have the corporation cards. So your deck is going to look something like this, with the corp on top. So let's say that it's the church turn. You're going to take the card from the top and move it to the bottom again and again until you get to the first church card. Same with the red dust card. You're going to take this corp card, move it to the bottom again and again until you get to your first red dust card. Now, if it's the corporation's turn, you still do the same thing. This top card gets discarded until you find the next corporation card. So you're never going to know what the next action is going to be because the next action is buried. So let's say this was the corporation turn. What we would do is we would move this to the bottom, and then if it was the church's turn, we would have stopped. We keep going, keep going, keep going. I didn't do a good job of shuffling, did I? If it was red dust turn, we would have stopped, but nope, we keep going, keep going, keep going, and then we finally stop here. And then we do this action, right? We do all the stuff, and then it goes to the bottom, and then this is the new card that's on top, and then we continue. So I'm going to shuffle this a little bit more. So I hope that makes sense. That's how the AI bot decks are going to work. And there's a few other things I want to go over real quick, but then we can get started. And yeah, my apologies, because I know some people are like, let's get on with the show already. Like I said, I really want to just explain things to people. So if you have your own game, you can do. If there's anybody that's willing to put in time markers, I would appreciate that, because that's a pain in the butt to do, and whoever does it, you're a saint. But not all heroes wear capes. So the next time marker, if someone's going to do it, is we're going to go over special bot rules. So we did go through some golden rules, but it keeps going. This section's not over. So implement, oh yeah, let's get to the, so this is where we go over the activation numbers, and then this is where they talk about the card and how that gets executed. And then here was the activation number exception. This is where I was starting to sweat. I was reading bing, 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 bing. I mean, look at all the list of exceptions. And I'm like, how am I going to remember all that? And I thought, do I need to write this down? But then I looked, and just like I showed you, the card tells you when the exception occurs. And so now I'm praising GMT again, because this is the kind of stuff that makes war games suck. Is they list all these exceptions, and then your actual player aids don't remind you of those exceptions. So that's really good. The other one is if you fail an AN roll, if the die result was less than or equal to the current supply total, they're going to reduce supply and keep going. Now this is for the Martian government. So in your game, if the Martian government is the bot, you need to keep that in mind. We don't have to worry about that because we are going to be the Martian government. If the CR fails, if the die result was less than or equal to the current asset total, basically the number of cards they have, they're going to just spend a card so they can keep rolling. And they treat it like a success. And then, the actual, they're going to roll a 1d6. If the result's less than or equal to the activation number, they will not select anymore. That's considered a fail. If it's more, and it has to be more, not equal, but more, then they would keep going. All right, and then the part in the beginning where they're doing eligibility. So here's where they say, so they're going to roll 3d6 and perform the following check to see if they will discard asset cards. If the number of die results equal to or lower than the current asset total is at least equal to, oh my gosh, it's die results. See, I'm glad I'm rereading this with you. So what they're saying is, you don't add these up. He has right now 4 cards in his hand. This is less. This is less, this is more. So we have 2 die results that are less than what he has. So it's saying, if it's at least equal to, or is at least equal to the asset card discards required to become first eligible, reduce the asset total by the number of discards required to become first eligible. Because remember, they don't always have to move up all the way to the first. So red might be ineligible. So they only need to move up ahead of blue to be first eligible, right? So that means they would only need to discard 2 cards. So these 2 are less than the current asset total. That one's more, but if he only needs to move up 2 spaces, then he would spend the 2 cards. If he needed to move up all 3 spaces, then he would not spend the cards because he doesn't have 5 or more cards. And then right here, if not, and the number of die results equal to or lower than the current asset is at least equal to the asset required to become second eligible, he'll still do it to become second eligible. So okay, he wasn't able to become first eligible because he couldn't spend 3, but he'll spend 2 to become second eligible. That's what that's saying. Okay, I gotta put the camera down and you can see my green screen. Forgive me for that. I'm gonna grab something else on the rule book here. So we gotta go back to the setup. Well, actually, we're right there. It's in the same section. So this is the part that has me confused. It says that the asset total marker is set to 3. Okay? But then when you go to the rule book and do setup, oh, it is 3. They draw 3 cards. Okay, I did that wrong. So we're going to take this card and just reduce it to 3. Now, I know we have that marker up there. Again, I'm very upset with GMT for putting it on the other end of the board. I'm tempted to use poker chips. I have poker chips right here. So I'm tempted to use poker chips or whatever it takes to count my cards instead of having to reach across the table to move that thing up and down. So right now I had no problem with just using cards since they do have cards in the game, right? So it just gets you, the thing with the AI is you don't care what the card actually says. And my apologies if you're hearing a lot of pitter patter. That's my dog playing with her toys. So, okay, so let me pause real quick and make sure I got everything I need and we can get started. Okay, so if anybody's doing the timestamps, we're going to discuss some things that are new to this coin game and the overall flow. So the overall flow of this game, they actually have it here, sequence of play, is we're going to do event rounds. So like I've been explaining, we're going to take this card We're going to do our first eligibility, second eligibility, and so forth. And then we're going to keep doing that, drawing card after card after card, until one of two things happens. So the first thing that happens is we get what's called a flashpoint round. So a flashpoint round is described in one of your player aids here. This is all the stuff that happens in a flashpoint round. And I'll be honest with you, I glanced over it and then I was like, I'm not going to remember any of it. It's a checklist. We'll go over it when we get there. But how does a flashpoint round occur? That's the thing you need to know at this point. And so if you look at the cards, there's a number here, and that number 2 means that the flashpoint marker, which is right there, is going to move up 2 spaces. And you can see after it goes to phase 4, there's going to be so the top right corner of this card. See how it goes to number 4? Once it gets to that spot, it's going to cause a flashpoint round. So a couple quick rules with this. This is advancing it by 2. If you trigger the flashpoint round and you have extra points remaining, those are lost. You don't carry them over to the next round or anything like that. So that's the first thing to understand. The second thing to understand is when you set up the game, you don't move it up. So after we play this round, this card's going to go away. This card will go here, and then we're going to draw this one, right? This card, and only this card, moves the flashpoint round. Always. It's always the new card that gets revealed that determines the flashpoint stuff. So in this case, we're starting the game. We ignore this card. So everything starts at 0, and the flashpoint doesn't start moving forward until the next card. So it's going to be, we're going to finish the first round of the game before that occurs. All right, so then flashpoint rounds are temporary pauses. We do all the things that are in there, and then the game continues. Then eventually, one of those cards is going to be the Dust Storm card. And so when the Dust Storm card gets revealed from here, that's letting you know the round's going to end, but you still play this round, right? Because this is the current card. Then when the Dust Storm card moves over and triggers the next intermission or pause, you don't reveal the next card yet. So therefore, there's no flashpoint advancement or anything like that. You don't reveal the next card. You just do the Dust Storm, resolve that in its entirety, and then follow. There's a reset phase, and then these cards will reset, and and then you continue. Okay, so the Dust Storm round is the round where victory conditions are checked. When you're playing against AI bots, you cannot win until the last Dust Storm round, which is 3. There's 3 of them. So in the first 2 rounds, even if you meet the victory conditions, you do not win as a player against the bot. If you're playing against other players, you will win. So it's very important to understand those victory point conditions, what they need to be, and how to obtain them. Now, again, I know I'm a broken record, but I'm annoyed with the number track being on the top of the board, because if I stand up and look over here, you can see that the Martians, or the red dust, needs to be at 32. The government needs to be 34. That's our goal. And then the corporate profits need to be 36. They actually show you what you got to get to on the board, but gosh darn it, that's so far away and so hard to see. So that's unfortunate. They really missed out on an opportunity. Look at the bottom of this board. It was totally available right here to put that track. So if anything, I would actually recommend that you set the game up upside down. I know that's crazy because some people like to see the words facing you, but I actually would say, set the game up upside down just because that track is so important to have next to you. You know what else is important and done every round? That's done every round, and that's also on the other end of the board. It's like they got their priorities backwards when they design this board. Okay, it's a small issue. We can definitely overcome this issue. One other thing, this marker here, this EG marker. So this is the Earth Government Support And right now, the corporations are controlling the Earth government. So what this is saying is, so when you repair things or restore population, get them homes again, the Earth government will positively support you, the Martian government, if you're the one that did it. But if the Red Dust Rebellion did it, if the rebels did it, then it becomes EG negative. And so there's two sides here. There's a positive and a negative. And so it would become EG negative if the Martians did it. And I'm pretty sure that the negative means that it's going to decrease during the next flashpoint round. And the positive means it's going to increase. Now, the corporation is also bot controlled, and the corporation can also do things for population or damaging and stuff like that. So the corporation will always set it to positive as long as it's in the corporation control range. Once it goes beyond 4 and becomes under Martian government control, then the corporations will also set it to negative. So that's another thing to understand, and so that's something the bots will do. Okay, so let's get started. I'm going to move some rule books out to the side here. I'm going to try to find space that's not going to destroy pieces. And let's discuss this. So this is our event card. The part that's shaded benefits the rebels. The part that's not shaded benefits the Martian Earth government. So that's pretty standard. And at any time, if you're the Martian government, you can always take the shaded text if that's what you prefer. There's no rule restriction there. It's just that it's a rule of thumb that the event will, typically it helps both sides, and it just depends on what it says. So red, the rebels are going to go first, unless yellow wants to spend asset cards to take first from them. So that's where we're going to have to roll our dice to see if yellow will move forward and take that. Okay? So that's step one. But putting all that aside, why are we trying to get eligibility? Why aren't we? So let's say that red is going to go first and yellow's not doing any shenanigans. They get to choose one of these three options. And then whichever one they choose, the second player that goes is locked into taking the next one over. So if they choose this one, the second player has to choose that one, etc. So the three options that they have is they can do the event, which is what's written on this card. And that's their entire turn. They just get what the card says. The second option they have is they can do a faction op and then add a special activity. I call that a full action. So it's an op plus activity. And those are what the player aid books. There's different actions that belong to each faction, and there's a whole smorgasbord. It's like ordering a menu at a restaurant. There's a lot of things you get to do. Okay, so it just depends. And then the top one is you get to do what's called a first action OP only. So you're going to do an operation, but not a special activity. So that really limits your turn. So you're going to only do the action and not special activity. It means you're going to do less on your turn. But here's why you may want to do that. So this event could be catastrophic against you, but it doesn't help you. So what you could do is you could take this one, and then the person that event was really going to help, let's say it was the Martian government, they're forced to take the second faction limited op. So what that means is they only get to do an operation just like you, but they can only do it on one area. So even if that operation lets them put troops out on 4 different spaces, they can only do it on one space, because that's what a limited op means for them. And if you'll notice, nobody gets to play the event. So the reason you do this is you're preventing anybody from playing the event. Now, if I'm the Martian government, I could choose to pass, because I don't want to do that. So I'm going to pass, and I stay here, and I actually get 3 resources for passing. The corporation activates the Aldrin Cycler. The rebellions will get 1 resource, which they don't get resources in this game. Remember that. And then the church gains a card. And the rebellion gets something. I'll have to look up what they get. But they're not getting resources because there's no resources for them in this game. So let me get that off the board. Okay. So the other thing you do is, okay, I want to just do a full action. Then the second player can take the event or do a limited op. And usually you do that, if you're first, you do that because the event's not going to hurt you. Or you take the event, and then the second player can do a full action with a special activity. So, and then once it's done, whoever the 2 players were, let's say it's those, they go into ineligible. Then we move to the next card, and only these 2 are eligible to go. You can still pass. It is possible nobody goes during that phase if both of them pass. But by passing, these 2 become eligible again. So the ineligible is only for 1 turn. So then, you could get into this rut where, okay, these 2 are ineligible, and then, these 2 go, then this happens, right? And so now you got this like tennis match thing going. But as soon as somebody chooses, hey, I'm going to pass, then it breaks the cycle, and now you have 3 eligible, blah, blah, blah. Okay? So that's the back and forth to this. And for many of you who are familiar with coin games, this is nothing new at all. But for those of you that are not, I just wanted you to understand the mechanics of what we're engaging in right now. Okay, I want to look up what does the rebellion get if they pass, because they're not getting a resource. 1 second. Okay, so the answer to the question is the Martian government and the rebellion get nothing if they pass, because there's no resources in the game. So it just doesn't do anything for them. And this is only for the bots. Obviously, if you're a player, you get those things. Okay, so a couple of things to check. The first thing is you look at those 4 symbols. You can see the red, blue, black, yellow. That's the order. If yellow doesn't spend any asset cards. They have 3 of them, as you know. So we're going to roll the dice to see if they're going to spend their asset cards to either go first or second. And that's the first thing that's going to happen. The second thing that happens is if any of those had a star under them, and unfortunately, I don't see a star on either of our 2 cards yet. The star means that it's a critical event, meaning that that faction wants that event badly. That is going to dictate how the faction behaves. And so that's something that, even a human player would behave differently if they want a particular event badly. And so we have to always make sure that that's a thing. So let's follow the player guide. So you can see right here is the NP eligibility table. So that's where we're at right now. And the first thing it says is that the NPCR has to roll 3d6 and then check the number of results less than the asset total against discards required. So we're going to roll. And so they have 3 cards. So this is out, this is out. They can only one of them passed. And so right now they do not have enough discards to go first or second because there's 4 people who are eligible. And as you know, from the card, red is first and blue is second. So they would, if they spent 1, they would only make it to third, which is a fail. That's not going to happen for them. Also bear in mind that for this campaign, we have red wave elections. When any space shifts from passive support to neutral, instead it goes to passive opposition. So they get 2 bumps. That has nothing to do with this. I'm just reminding everybody the factors that are into this particular game. So first thing we do is red is first. So is the current event critical and effective? Well, it's not critical because it doesn't have the star. And because I'm curious what the star looks like, I'm going to go into the deck of cards that's not in the game. I've never played this before, so I have no idea what should be in the game or shouldn't be. So it doesn't spoil me anything. So I'm gonna go grab the deck of cards that's not in the game. Remember, there was 12 of them during setup. And let's see if we can find one of those stars that they're talking about. Because I want to be able to show you what you're looking for. So we, oh, see that? That's actually a slash. That means they absolutely do not like the event. There's that too. Oh, there's 4 slashes on that one. Here we go. See, there's stars underneath. And some of these have the slash. And then that one has stars. For 3 of them. So that's what they're looking for. The star means critical. And you're always supposed to take this literal. So this is an and statement. So is it critical and effective? Even if it was effective, it doesn't matter. It's not critical. So this is a negatory. So then it says, is the acting fashion NPCR? And the answer is no. So if that were the case, you would check for a critical asset event if it was. Now this is a multiplayer thing. The CR faction is so weird. It actually does have all these special rules. But basically, let me pause real quick. Okay, so I got it understood. Now, please understand that the NPCR is not active. I'm just going through what would have happened if they were. And I know that sounds crazy, but we are going to use poker chips instead of that marker. So right now there's 3 poker chips indicating that they have 3 cards. And the reason I'm going to do that is because the cards actually get drawn by the AI player in this case. So this isn't happening this turn, but what they're going to do is they're going to draw their cards, and some of them are event cards. And so they would do the event on this card instead of the event on the card here. So it's like they have their own special events. And then see this little star? That means it's a critical event. And so some of these events are like really powerful for them. And then they have like what's called capability events as well. And if you're the human player, this capability is a permanent bonus you get for the rest of the game. So spaces with a CR base count as having 2 fewer coin units for secure and recon. That's rest of the game. So this is like a permanent ability. You set it aside and it no longer counts. It doesn't get shuffled back into the deck. It's almost like a mini like RPG. Like you just equip some shield and armor. So there's capability things that improve your people. So I think it's really cool. Actually, it makes me want to play the CR. It's one of the, I praise the developer for trying to like do something special and different, and I think he certainly did. But so in this case, if we were at this phase, if the acting faction was them, they would check for a critical asset event, which is one of those events with a star. That's not the case, so we're going to move on. Is the current event is critical for the second eligible faction? Because that's important too. Because remember, some of this is about blocking the other faction from getting the event. And that's not the case. There's no stars for either of them. So we keep going. Next event is critical for acting faction, and they would be first eligible if they passed. So this is looking ahead to the next card, which is this one, and seeing are they eligible or critical for that one. And the answer is no. In fact, you can see that they got a little slash underneath, which I think is telling the AI that it's not critical at all. Let me see if I can find where it describes that. All right, so the good news there is I nailed that one. So these 4, this is the next card. All 4 of those are events that the AI bots will never do. So I'm going to read this real quick. Place all available storm markers on their raging storm side. Executing faction remains eligible. So remaining eligible just means that you do the event, but you stay eligible for the next round. So the thing here is that the AI bots will never do this event. So when he's looking forward, he definitely doesn't see something that is attractive to to try to pass for. So then he goes to the next one, and now we're at the otherwise. So now we're into this this gray section. He's first eligible. Oh, I'm sorry. Otherwise, he's going to do the op plus SA. So that's exactly it. So red is going to go to the op plus special activity, which is the middle one. All right, so then, okay, now what? Well, the next thing that happens is we go through here to figure out what that is. So we're doing this one. So it's saying, are there any population markers in displaced population? And the answer is yes. So we're going to keep going. If the answer was no, it's telling you to draw another card. Then it says, roll a 2d6 if it's less than or equal to available RD rebels. So there's a lot of RD rebels available. So good chance the answer is going to be yes. So we rolled a 6. There's 2, 4, there's way more than 6 available. So the answer is yes. So we're going to keep going down the chart. Now, if it would have been a no, what it's saying to do is flip the card over, and then we do this stuff. Okay? But that's not the case. It was a yes, so we're going to keep going straight. So we're going to do what's called the rally command. And this is where there is a... I would swear that there was a player aid for the butts. I feel like I'm losing my mind. I would swear there was a player aid for the butts. 1 second. Okay, must have been smoking something. So what we do is, so right here, the rally is the action, right? And so there's some instructions here on what they're going to do. And this is where it gets a little wonky. You're going to have to check multiple different places to figure out how to place these bases. But I still think it's easier than the flowcharts used to be. So bear with me because I'm still learning. But first of all, they're doing the rally action. So what does that mean? Well, we have our sheet here. And for the red dust movement, there is a rally action like so. So what this means is the operation is called rally, and in red here it says plus redistribute or coordinate. So the special activities, there's several of them. You can see there's an ambush one as well. When you did the action, it said limited op plus special activity. Well, when you do a rally, the only special activities you can do are those two. You can't do an ambush along with this. So in order to get the ambush, you would have to do attack. And then you can add ambush to the attack. All right? So that's something to understand. Now, it is possible the bots are going to break these rules, but if you're a human player, that's how it works. So what they're saying is we're going to do the rally action. So let's study the action first. What is it if I was a human player? And then let's figure out what the AI bot's going to do in this situation. So first of all, the purpose is to place forces and upgrade bases. Perfect. Understood. They're going to do it in a location that's any populated spaces with no support. So what does that mean? Neutral. That has support. That has support. That has support. This is neutral. That's neutral. So it's all the neutral spaces. I don't know. Well, actually, it could be any spaces without support for you. Now, It says take everything literally, and it says without support. So support, whether it's for them or for you. Now, please understand that every action is in the rule book, and they do detail it all out, so we can go find it somewhere in here. I see petition, I see rally, redistribute. No, rally is what I'm looking for. Hold on. Redistribute. Oh, these are special operations. Rally. So it says, red dust may select any populated spaces without support. Reclaimers may select any neutral spaces. So I guess my question would be, is without support, does that mean any support, which means it's neutral? And then that leads me to brings to bear the question, why wouldn't you just say neutral? Or is it saying without support for Mars? So that means if it's in support of the for the rebellion, if it's in support of the Martian government, then that means it's without support. That really is a poorly worded one. I'm already confused. I'm on the very first action of the game, and I don't know what it's telling me to do. And it's largely because it's ambiguous. So why would it not say neutral? And that's the reason why I'm questioning it, because if there's no support, it has to be neutral. Now, if it's saying without Mars RD support, it should say RD support. Red dust may select any populated spaces without RD support. Then that means, okay, it could be neutral or Mars support. And then if you look at the Reclaimers one, it does use neutral spaces. It says Reclaimers may select any neutral spaces. So I have to make a judgment call because I don't know what they're trying to say there. And I'm going to say that the implied RD is supposed to be in front of it. So any populated spaces without RD support is what it meant to say. So that's already a fail, GMT. I don't know how that got past people. I'm sure there might be some weird spot in the rule book that says if it doesn't say, but it really should do that. All right, so okay, so this is definitely there's a lot going on with this one, but there was another setup issue. All the bases are on their non side, so let's do that real quick. It does matter which side is up. So for the Mars forces, the side that's face down, or this means that it's a dug-in base. That does not. So none of these are dug-in bases. Okay, so that's first thing. Second thing, let's just understand the action, like I was saying, instead of trying to read into everything. So the cost is one resource per selected, but remember the bot doesn't use resources, so cost doesn't matter. In each space that's selected, they're going to place one rebel or replace two of them with a base. So they would come off the map and then a base would go on instead. If there is a base, they may instead place rebels up to the population plus RD bases, or flip all red rebels there to hidden. Then, after all of that, they may upgrade one base in a desert to dug in. So there's a lot of things going on. That's a very meaty if then else. So what this is saying is they want to place bases where there's 3 or more rebels and 1 hidden rebel. Yes, and so they're going even further, because like in the human player case, you can replace 2 rebels with a base. But what this is saying that they need to have at least 3 rebels plus a hidden rebel in order for bases to be placed. So it's a little bit of a stiffer requirement for the AI. And there's a pretty useful section in the beginning of the regular rule book that I want to show you. So when we're having these discussions, see, there's the base, and then there's a terraform base. Blue doesn't have a flip side. So if you look at the blue base, a base is a base for us, okay? But for everybody else, there's a flip side. So there's an RD base, and then there's a dug-in RD base. There's a CR base and a conversion center, okay? And then for the troops, they're either hidden or they're active. And of course, the symbol side up is active. And the same with the special ops. And then, of course, you got cubes, all right? And they describe a lot of that over here on the left. This is very well done. And then, you know, it even has like a little designer note at the top and blah, blah, blah. So for the purposes of this, we have to take, okay, this is the spirit of the action, but this is the golden source of truth. So they're going to place bases where there's 3 or more rebels and 1 hidden rebel. So remember, that means they're not face up and active. And in the game start, none of them are active. So that's fine. And so right here, there's 3 rebels. And it says 1 or more are hidden. So it doesn't mean that there has to be a 4th rebel. It just says that there's 3 rebels there and 1 or more of them are hidden. So this qualifies Sharma. Now there's already a base on Sharma, so I don't know if that is a factor. So we'll see in a second. But where else do they have 3 or more rebels? So you just look at the map and there isn't anywhere else. Sharma is the only one that even qualifies for that. So then let's just see what else it says. So it says place a base there. And you're allowed to have 2 bases on the same space. So that's not an issue. So we'll go ahead and take the Red Dust movement and they'll put a 2nd base on Sharma, because I believe that's what it's telling us to do. Then it says select spaces using place rebels. Now, this is the part that gets confusing, because what this says is it says in each space, place 1 rebel. It says any populated spaces without support. In each space, place 1 rebel or replace 2 with a base. If there is a base, they may instead either place rebels up to the population plus bases or flip all rebels there to hidden. That's if there was a base already there. Now, this is not saying that. This is saying place a base. It doesn't make any mention of, well, what if there's already a base there? And then it says select spaces using place rebels. I don't like the way this card's written. So we have okay, so the NPC rulebook does have a section where they go through each item. So for the first one, placing the bases, it says use the place or dig in column of the selection priorities table. So we haven't used that because there's only 1 space that was eligible, but there's this bubble chart here, and you can see place or dig bases is right here, and there's a bubble on most population. So all that means is if there was a tie between more than 1 places, they would choose the place that has the most population first. There was only 1 place that was eligible, so we didn't need to use the bubble chart. But that's all this is saying. From my understanding, we did this part correctly. And in fact, we even understood, because it says right here, and at least one hidden RD rebel. So we did that part correctly. So now the next part, select spaces using place rebels. Use the place rebels column of the space selection priorities table to select spaces to place rebels. So I guess we're going to place some rebels is what it's telling us to do. And then flip the most rebels where all active. Among all spaces with RD bases and only active RD rebels, select spaces with the most active rebels, and each space flip all active rebels to hidden. There aren't any active rebels, so I think we're going to probably skip that part. And then it says dig in, which is way up there at the top. Use the placer dig in to determine which space does the dig in action. So, okay. So how do we place rebels? Well, that's where the bubble chart comes in again. So first thing we do is we find so there's a place rebels column, and then it says RD base with no hidden rebel is the first place you would place rebels. Then you just keep going down. Not at active opposition. So meaning that it's not in support of you, the AI bot. And then if the church is a player, we're skipping that. Then it's most population. Then, so I think we've already gotten to, well, let's just check. So, are there any bases with no hidden rebels? There's a base up there with a hidden rebel. These bases all have hidden rebels. So does that one. And so does that one. So the top criteria is negatory. Then it says not at active opposition. Well, this one, Sharma, is at active opposition. Everywhere else is not. So all of those are tied. So then it's like, well, okay, among the ties, now what? And that's why you have to keep going down the bubble chart. So the next one says most population. Well, Gandhi here has 2 population, right? This one has 1 population. How do I know? You just count the green spaces that are not damaged. Okay, that one up in the corner only doesn't even have a population because it's damaged. There's only, and then this one has 1. So there's 1, 2, 3, there's 5 places with bases. That's the only one. And the place rebels, I'm pretty sure place rebels has to go where there is a base. So if you look at the original action here, if there is a base, they may instead either place rebels up to the population plus bases. See that part right there. So, so what they're going to choose Gandhi because Gandhi is not active opposition. And so they could place rebels up to their current, up to the population plus bases. So the population is 2, and then the base is 1. So they're going to place 3 more rebels in Gandhi. All right, I think I'm getting it, folks. It took me a while because you can see, like, you have to connect all these dots, but it's finally coming together. And then the third step is flip most rebels where all active, and of course, there's nothing to flip because there's no active rebels anywhere, so we don't do anything. Then last but not least, it says dig in 1 base in a desert. So the desert, of course, is a dig in action. And remember, desert means these are not going to count, right? Because those aren't in a desert. Those are in a labyrinth. But there is a dig in section right here. And it's going to be whatever has the most population, which I believe we have a tie. And then whatever has the most rebels, and then select at random if that still is not resolved. Okay, so no population up there, so that one's out. This one has 1 population, that one has a population, so we got a tie between those. This one has 1 rebel, that one has 2, so this is the one that digs in. Voila, there you go. That's how you use the AI bot plus the card to do the action. Ooh, I feel like I should be charging an hourly rate to do this, right? It's work. And even the designer from 3 Minute Board Games will explain to you, this is not easy. And I think a lot of people, when they start playing, they play schizophrenically, where they just play all sides because they don't want to have to deal with these bot charts. And I do have to confess, it will give you familiarity with the game, so that way you're not struggling as badly as I currently am. But I want you to I don't want you to be intimidated by this. The bots, once you get the hang of it, are not going to be bad. And to be honest with you, this really wasn't that bad. We had to figure out a few things, but now that we have them figured out, this would flow a lot quicker. I hope you would agree with me on that. All right, so we're not done though, because they chose to do a limited action plus special opportunity. So now we got to go down the arrow and we're going to do a special activity. So they're going to do coordinate. And remember, this is, oh, hold on. Select spaces using place rebels is more than one space. So I did one thing wrong. This is plural. So we did put rebels on Gandhi, but we need to keep going. And so the way you keep going is we've got to roll a die. I rolled a 3, which means we keep going. So now we pick another space with a base. And which one do we pick? It's that bubble chart again. So for place rebels, they want to go where there's no active opposition. And then they want to go where there's the most population. And then after that, the most bases, and then vulnerable enemy base, or no RD control. Okay, so there's a lot going on here. So vulnerable enemy base would, there's actually a definition on the back of the rulebook for the NPCs. Vulnerable bases is any space with fewer than 4 friendly units. MG and Corp units are friendly to each other. So it has to be a space where there's a base though. So we are very limited. We're only looking at 1, 2, 3 more spaces where we could place population. I guess technically a 4th. We got Sharma. But we're ignoring Sharma because the first criteria is not active opposition. So we're going down the list, and so no active opposition, then, like I said, most population. So that one's out. So it's a tie between this and that's what we're trying to resolve here. There's no vulnerable enemy base. Is there RD control? That has RD control, technically, because they have the most, and in fact, we actually have RD control markers. So, I mean, technically that's under RD control. And so is that one, if I understand control properly. Control, by the way, is just your enemy forces outnumber the others. Not a very tough one to figure out. But it's funny because when we set up the game, they didn't tell us to put control markers out. So I'm starting to second guess myself. So let me pause. Yeah, I did it right. The control represents you have more troops than anybody else. I mean, so technically there's a lot of control going on. So there's control here. I mean, I guess you don't need to put the markers out there because you can physically see where the control is, but just helping you to see, we do have control in both of these. And technically they have control even up here, right? So even though that doesn't satisfy so we keep going. We're going down the bubble chart. And just a refresher, we're going down place rebels. So we're here under no RD control. Then we jump down to 1 or 2 RD rebels and room for an available base. Okay, so the answer is yes to both. So then fewest enemy forces. So this is what changes things. Because remember we said this base flips over. We gotta reverse that because we're retconning a little bit here. This one has fewest forces. So there's 1 population and 1 base. So 2 more rebels appear here. Okay. Now we roll the die to see if they continue. I rolled a 3, so yes, they do continue. So now we go to this one. There is no more tiebreaker. So this one, they're going to get population plus base. And now we go again. I'm going to roll that again. Okay, now it failed. No more continuing. If it would have continued, we actually would have put forces up there. And then if it would have continued again, Sharma would have finally gotten it, because Sharma would have been the only one left. So we put forces out in a lot more places. That was part of the place rebels. And then now we flip. And the same logic we did, there's less here than there is there, so this one flips. So that part stays the same. So now we go to special activity. And now I brag about how I think I got it right. Oh my goodness. All right, select one special activity. So they're gonna do it in the order that it's here. So they're either gonna do coordinate or redistribute. Now the question is there a reason they would skip one and go straight to the other? That's a great question. They do have it all on here. So what are the options? Coordinate and redistribute. It says follow them in the order given. So what we do is we try to do coordinate first, and then if that isn't applicable, then we do the other one. So first things first, remember it's a black number with a 1, which means that we're going to roll a die to see if they continue. So first they're going to do is coordinate house using place population. All right, so coordinate, let's study that one real quick. It's a max of 2 spaces, although I don't think the AI follows that. That's a great question, or maybe it is max 2 spaces still. Let me get back into this. Executes each special activity as much as possible, given available pieces in the state of the board, follow all procedures. I think we still max them at 2, because that's what it says. All right, but they're going to try to do it as much as possible, is what the key thing is. So it's the purpose is to repair or house and build opposition. So it accompanies, those 3 things. Up to 2 spaces without support and with hidden rebels. They can activate a hidden rebel to repair a house once if desired, then shift one towards active opposition, or if not already, or if already at active opposition, they can remove 2 troops from us, the Mars government, or security, which is the corporations, and replace 1 with a rebel. Any security removed go to available, not casualties. So that's an important distinction. Okay, so what this is saying is house using place population. The place population thing that's another bubble chart command. So we come here to place population, we scroll down, and they want us to place population where there's the most opposition. And remember, this is, you have to activate a hidden rebel to repair or house once if desired, okay? So they're gonna go for place population, most opposition. And I don't think they have repair as a separate action. No, it does say, it says house using place population. Repair is the second action, second step. Okay, so they're gonna try to replace, or try to house with most opposition. Well, this is active opposition, right? So this is where they want to go. And so I got to move this token out of the way. But basically what it's saying is you take one of these populations and you put it here. So now there's another population adding to the active opposition. So now the active opposition is 3. And so the total opposition marker is going to go up by 1. And then we added a base, so it goes up 1 more. That marker says total opposition plus bases. So we added 1 base, and we added one population. So now the thing I don't know is, I mean, it shows all 3 steps here, house and then repair. So I guess what they're saying is we're gonna house first and then repair second. So the next thing we do is we're gonna try to do as many as possible, but we still roll because it's a black background with a white number. We rolled high enough, so they are gonna go again. So now they're going to go where there's the most opposition. So they can't choose the same place twice, but Gandhi is the next one. And so here, we're going to add a population, and I just realized I did something wrong. We're going to add 2 more points to this, and I'll explain why. The population counts as 2. If you're active opposition, it counts as 1 if you're passive. So this is 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, the base 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Okay? So that would be 15 points. This is passive opposition, so that would be 16 right there. And we got passive opposition here, so that's 17, 18. Okay, so now let's check to see if I got it right. Bam, there I am, I'm on 18. So I counted it correctly. Boy, okay, so they did that, and we're not gonna do repair, because they've done their 2 places, they're done. And then shift towards active opposition. Now remember, that doesn't just happen automatically, and neither does the repair, because it's one or the other. This says they have to activate a hidden rebel too. So in this case, this gets activated, and this one gets activated, because those were the 2 that did it. All right, so that's one piece. And then, let's see. Then shift 1 level towards active opposition, which this one would have shifted to active opposition. And then that means we're adding 3 more. Holy buckets. So they just got 1, 2, 3 more added to their control. All right, we're not done. Then if already at active opposition, which is this one, either remove 2 MG troops or replace 1 with a rebel. Now this says shift towards active opposition. Only where 2 or more hidden rebels. Reduce agitate total by 1 for each pair. Remove 2 cubes before replacing 1. So that's just giving you some more direction. So in this case, we're already at active opposition in Sharma, and they want us to remove 2 cubes, but you can see here there's only 1. There's 1 MG cube here. So this is going to get removed. It's not a casualty. And then what it's saying is it gets replaced with a rebel. So that's what they just did in Sharma. And my oh goodness, we're an hour and 23 minutes in. That took what, 40 minutes just to do an AI turn. I promise you, once you get more comfortable with the game, it won't be quite so bad. But yeah, it's pretty involved. So no wonder it took the guy 6 to 8 years to develop this game. Just playtesting it took forever. All right, that is red. We're not done. Now we go back to our card. And next up is blue. That's us. So we can decide if we want to go. And if we go, we can do a limited operation. or we can do the event. So let's talk about what our choices are. We are the Martian government. Our victory condition, of course, is have total support plus Earth government's confidence, equaling 34. A limited operation means we can't do special activities. And then if we do an operation, I'm pretty sure a limited operation means we can only do it on one location. And I will make sure of that. I verify that. Yes, I had it correct. A limited operation means it impacts only one location. And if it's a move type of operation, you can move from any number of spaces, but you can only move to one location. So that's the thing with a limited operation. So let's just go through real quick. Train. So we get to place troops and bolster support. So this would be 3 resources per space that we choose. And we can choose any space with an MG base and labyrinths with coin control. So if it was not a limited operation, I could choose as many spaces as I have resources. But because it's a limited operation, I would only be able to pick one space to do that in. Okay. Then secure, we get to enter labyrinths and reveal rebels there. So we go to any labyrinth, we have to pay resources again. We move them from adjacent spaces along maglev lines, etc. And then after moving, we activate 1 rebel for each troop. Now, because this is a limited operation, it's saying that I can move from anywhere, but I can only move to 1 labyrinth. So I would only pay 3 resources because it's limited, but I can pick 1 labyrinth and move troops to it and try to secure it. Recon. I can enter deserts and reveal rebels there. So very similar. I'm moving troops to destination desert. Again, only 1 place. And then activate 1 rebel. The thing with activation is the rebel reveals itself, so then it's going to be easier to kill them or remove them. And then last one is assault, where you could remove, in each space, remove 1 active enemy force. See that point? That's not hidden, it's active. You remove 1 active enemy force per coin unit that's there. So that means you get to use the corporation units if they're also there. And then you can see that the bases are last. So you remove units, but you can't destroy bases until all the units are removed first. And then in labyrinths or with dug-in base, etc., etc. Okay, so those are our 4 actions, and we can, because it's limited, like I said, only 1, and because it's limited, we can't do the special activities that are on the right. So we can look at those at some other point. The other option we have is we can do the event, or we can pass. So if you look at this, if we pass, we go 3rd, but red just went, so they're going to be ineligible. So if we pass, black is going to go next. And if they also pass, then they would go first during this turn. But if they don't, then I'm going first. So, unless yellow pays resources or whatever. So if we go to here, though, we haven't read what the event is. Because they chose the full action, we could choose to do the event. So this one helps them. Place 4 rebels in 1 base. Yeah, that's not cool. We can either reduce the red dust resources by 5, or CR must discard 2 asset cards at random. That would mean we get rid of 2 of their poker chips. Their count would go down. The targeted faction is ineligible through the next event round. So we're making them ineligible this round and the next one. Now, this hurts us because making them lose 5 resources, they don't have resources. So we can't hurt the rebellion at all. We could make them lose their 2 cards because they have 3, and then they become ineligible for this round and the next round, which means that the corporation will be the only one eligible next turn. And maybe that's good. I don't think this event's really worth. I would rather do a limited action. Let's just put it that way. So, but that's the decision we had to make there, and it's unfortunate because sometimes those events are sweet. So what's our limited action going to be? I didn't think about this. Secure is one of those things where we're trying to move in to an area that has a base, I mean, they just put out a boatload of rebels. So we want to go in and secure a place. So we're going to move to an adjacent location and try to make sure that we activate all those rebels so they reveal themselves. So that way later on we can wipe them out. That's what it is. I think I want to do the train because we don't have that many troops on the board. I mean, to be honest, we have 2 there with orange. I mean, we have just enough troops in most of these places, but not like a whole lot. And so I don't think I can secure yet. I definitely don't think I can assault. So it says that each space place up to 4 troops, then may pacify in up to 1 selected space. I don't even know what pacify means. So then once again, let me look it up. All right, this is a pretty fantastic action. I don't know why pacify is not listed. Well, actually, here it is. It's at the bottom. Right there, pacify. Perform up to 2 of these actions. I mean, it says up to 2 of, but it's any of these things. We can house, repair, or pay 3 resources to shift 1 level towards active support. Any combination. We get to do that twice. And it has to be in 1 selected space. You get to do that twice within that space. It's not 2 different spaces. And it has to be the same space where we place our troops. Now, part of the placing the troops is it has to be somewhere where we have control. And that could be a issue. So I'm grabbing a bunch of control markers here. And let's see if we have control. We do have control here because we have a base. That's 3 versus 2. We have control here because corporations never control space, and corporation is helping us to control that, and their base and their troops count towards us. We do not have control there. The orange and the red outweigh us, and in fact, in this case, orange has control. So we might as well resolve that, right? We do have control here. We have control here. We have control there and control there. We don't have control here. In fact, let's put the Martian control. And I know I didn't do every single space on the board. I'm just trying to focus on our action. So what do we want to do? Well, first things first is we have to pay 3 resources. Sorry. So 3 resources where we place troops. We can only place troops in 1 place. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, like so. Then we're going to take 4 troops, because I definitely want to place 4 troops. And I got to decide where. So the question is I need to go somewhere where I'm either housing, repairing, you get the gist. So here we have active support. So I can't even do 2 actions there because I can only house once. There's only 1 gray spot. So probably not the best place to do this particular action. Up there though, I have passive support and 2 gray spots. And down here I have no support and 2 gray spots. So I can do a lot of damage with that one. Same here. That one has 3 population, right? And so actually I'm going to choose that one. So we're going to choose the Shenzhou or whatever it's called. And I'm going to put 4 troops there. And then I'm going to, for my 2 actions, I'm going to go to passive support and then active support. And my reason for doing that is there's already 3 population here, and I get to count them as not just once, but twice. So my total support just went up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 because of that. So that's a high population zone. I want to make sure I have solid control over that. And then we can worry about the other stuff as we go deeper. All right, that's our action, and that's the end of the first round. And what we do is we put this here, and then both of us become ineligible. These are the only 2 eligible for the next round. And then we come over here. This card is discarded. This card comes over. That's going to be for use for the next turn. We flip this over, and you see here it has the number 2. We take the flash point and we move it up 2. Okay, that's the end of one round. Hour 34 minutes. I know I spent at least 30 some minutes talking about some rule clarifications. I probably spent another 15 just trying to explain how eligibility works. I know there was some instruction in there. So let's just say there was a whole 45 minutes that I spent talking. Yeah, that was 45 minutes to do one turn. It'll go better, I promise you. It just does. But for now, it's painful. And I hope that my goal here has always been to go slow and make sure everybody understands why I'm thinking what I'm thinking and how I'm reacting to it. Where am I finding things so you can find them too? And I really hope it's instructional for you. And I get it. Some people just want to see how it's played, and this is too slow for them. And this isn't for you, I guess. But as always, thank you for joining me at the table, and stay awesome.